Let's get another view on this from Helen Croydon, who's the author of Screw the Fairy Tale. So what if you don't want marriage and kids? She's live in our central London studio. Helen, very good evening to you. You've written a book, and as a result, to build up material explored pretty widely across Britain and Europe, our sexual habits. I'm a bit confused by this particular survey. It seems to be rather conflicting. We're more adventurous, but we seem to be having less sex. What are your findings generally?
Yes, it does sound like a bit of a conflict. But what I think is happening here is that on the one hand, we are becoming more liberal towards sex, and it's much easier to have short-term relationships these days. We have the anonymity of the internet. We have social networking, which makes us able to meet people beyond who we would usually be able to meet before social networking. And I think so because of the ease of being able to have short-term relationships and one-night stands, I think what that does to couples and people who are in relationships is it makes them cling on to each other a little bit more. I think they feel a little bit threatened by that. So they want to sort of validate their relationship, and there becomes this almost forced sense of togetherness where you're expected to do everything together, share all the domestic chores, and the relationship comes a lot, about domesticity and about making sure you spend enough time together, which is a little bit too intense, and it doesn't set a good backdrop for a spontaneous and fulfilling sex life. So, we have these two forces here, an increase in casual sex, which I think is a good thing, but that is putting strain on couples and making people feel threatened.
Your book seems to suggest that maybe a lot more people are looking for either alternative relationships to the traditional man and wife settle down, have kids, have sex once a month or whatever it might be that is suggested by surveys, but also that certainly a lot more singletons, both men and women, are more interested maybe in careers rather than hooking up on a full-time basis.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, the crucial thing here is that we now live in an era where relationships are a choice and a luxury addition to our lifestyles. They're no longer a necessity. Where if you look throughout history, it's always been a necessity. It's only really the last 60 years where we've been able to live on our own. We've got, domestic conveniences has made our lives easier. The financial climate and women's independence means that we can now live alone. Just 60, 70 years ago, women couldn't even take, in some areas of the Western world, couldn't even take loans out for themselves. And women who had babies out of wedlock would be put into mental asylums. And that wasn't too long ago. So now we have a much more autonomous society which celebrates the individual rather than a group mentality. And I think it's hard, we shouldn't be surprised that this is having an effect on our attitudes to relationships. And of course, we're all living longer. So the idea of a lifelong relationship with one sexual partner is a much bigger deal than it's ever been. And I think this is why people are embracing, the possibility of more short-term relationships, and they are exploring their sexuality a lot more than they ever have done in the past.
Helen Croydon, very good to talk to you. Thanks very much.